What's up, Wildcats? I'm Emma Black.
And I'm Grace Whitaker. I'll be substituting for Giselle this week while she's on vacation. Anyway, welcome to the second episode of Locker Talk.
Walton's very first ever podcast. In case this is your first time listening, our podcast is a fun filled voiceover audio conversation. In our podcast, our mission is to get to know the Walt community in an enjoyable state. Our focus is to learn something about an individual. Do you have a special talent or a cool pet or what? That individual could be you. If you're interested in being in our podcast, contact. We would love to see and get to know you.
Now that we know what we're doing, let's meet who we're talking to this week. Let's meet Mr. Walton.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. So let's jump right into the questions. Mr. Walton, what do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, well, I like to spend time with my family. I've got two 8th graders and a 5th grader. And of course, my wife. We've been together a long time. And so we do a lot as a family, go on hikes with the dog and play on the trampoline. And then when I need some alone time, I like to read. And of course, I enjoy movies as well, watching things like Netflix and that kind of thing. So that is my main, those are my main things.
I totally agree with you there. Well, we have a quick starter question. How many years have you been in education?
So I started teaching at Charlottesville High School in 1999. So this is technically my 22nd year in education and my 7th year at Walton.
Oh, wow. What do you think in your whole career in education was the funniest moment that you can remember?
Oh, that is an excellent question. There's lots of funny moments when you're a teacher. I think one that comes to mind was I had a young man when I was in Madison County who was a football player and a great football player and just a great young man. But sometimes he did things that weren't always school appropriate, and so he got in trouble, and he kept getting in trouble before the big football game every year. And so he wasn't able to play, unfortunately. But his last year there as a senior, he was doing everything right. And so my principal and I walked down to see him at the end of the day before the game, and he thought he had done something, and he got this look on his face like, oh no, what did I do? I wanted to play. And of course, we went down to tell him he would be playing in that game. And so that was both fun, but it was also like, it was funny because he recognized how much he had grown. And like all the silly stuff he had done in the past. And so it was a moment of joy as well. But it's probably not my funniest moment, but it was definitely a fun moment. And it was cool to see him be able to play that night and win the big game.
Yeah, that's awesome. So moving on, today we're going to be asking you about the reopening of schools and moving to stage 4, because as you probably know, we are moving to stage 4 on March 15th. What are your thoughts about going back to stage 4?
Well, I'm excited about it. I think having students back in person is going to be great. It'll definitely be different. We'll have to practice safety measures, of course. But we get so much from just body language in terms of how we interact as humans. And so that's an important part of teaching. So right now, a lot of students keep their cameras off, which I understand for multiple reasons. But I think being in person is going to give teachers a lot more feedback and keep kids a lot more engaged. That said, I certainly understand families that are choosing to remain virtual. And I think the wonderful thing about our school system is we've allowed that choice to occur. And so it does offer a lot of flexibility for families. But I think it's just a great opportunity to move the needle a little bit closer to normal than we have been.
What do you think are some hiccups that we might experience when we go back later in March?
So I think that the big thing is there's going to be a lot of learning just around safety measures. Understanding, what social distancing really means is going to be important. Making sure that students are practicing those things and that teachers are reinforcing them is going to be important. So I think there's going to be a lot of learning, and we're going to have to put some of our academic learning on pause for a little while. Just so we can practice, how we practice rules and things like that when we come back normally to the new school year. We talk about social contracts and we sort of develop what our expectations are as a community. we're going to be returning to some of that. And of course, for many students, sixth graders, particularly, this is the first time they've been in our building. They didn't even get a chance to go through orientation last year. And so there's going to just be a lot of learning. So I don't know if they're really hiccups so much as just part of the process, but I think we're going to go in with one plan, and we have to be flexible to change plans as we see the need.
Right, definitely. And I feel that it'll take a little bit to get used to. Just it's almost like coming back to a new type of school.
Absolutely.
We heard that we're getting some new friends at Walton, aka the fifth graders. How will that go over?
So we are getting the fifth grade class from Mountain View Elementary School. And I think it's going to be great. We're excited to have them join our community. We have room at Walton. Walton can hold 550 students. And we usually have 350. So technically we've got room for 200 more. That said, with social distancing needs, we do need to be mindful that we really couldn't hold 550 students at the moment, but we certainly can hold the approximately 60 fifth graders that we're anticipating. Keep in mind, they're going to be on a hybrid schedule too. So when we talk about 60, that's about 30 per day, and we're going to have about 130 of our own students per day. So it's about 160 students per day, which is a little under half of what we normally have in the building. So we can definitely accommodate it. And I think there's also some opportunity for some partnerships with the elementary students. I see our ambassadors potentially taking on a role to really make them feel welcome. So I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
What do you think lunch and break will be like when we go back?
So it's definitely going to be different. Lunches are going to be taking place in classrooms. So we'll be delivering lunches, and students who are bringing their lunches will be able to do that. I will say one big negative is we're not going to have microwaves available for students just because we have to minimize touch. So I know for a lot of students who are used to bring food to heat up, that won't really be an option. So that's going to be a definite change. And we will have outside spaces where classes can eat. And so, if a class decides to do that, we'll have that available to them. And then it's going to be, break time is going to look very different because you won't be able to play your traditional games like football or basketball or tetherball because there's just, too much touch happening, and students tend to get close together. So it's going to be a lot more kind of walking, coming up with we'll probably come up with more games that don't involve touch. And I'm working on researching some of those things that we can share. So it'll look different, but there will be movement, and there will be an opportunity for students to get outside. So we will leverage the wonderful outside spaces we have at Walton.
For sure.
Yeah, and I feel like it'll open up opportunities to use like the outdoor classrooms we have at Walton.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
So our final question for you is, how will transitions from class to class be working? Will students stay in one class, or will teachers move, or?
That's a great question. So our transitions are going to look a little bit different. We're going to have students transitioning one at a time from out of the classroom. So that creates a stagger of at least 6 feet. And classrooms are going to be in a right-left hallways will be right-left configuration. The students will have to kind of hug the lockers to move from classroom to classroom. In some cases may have to take longer routes to make sure they're distancing from each other. So it will look very different. Students will also not be able to use lockers. And so students will carry all their materials with them from class to class, which a lot of students already do, I think, as you guys know, but that is a change for sure.
How long do you think we will have during that?
During the transitions between
Yes.
classes? Right now, our bell schedule, and we're still, finalizing things, is 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
And we're going to ask teachers to end class a little early so that students can wipe down their spaces.
Right.
And then they'll leave, and they'll throw their wipe out as they leave. And then if students want to wipe down their spaces when they come in, they can certainly do that as well. So we'll have all that available. So there'll be some even more time built in. So while it's a 5-minute transition between classes, students will really start packing up about 3 minutes before that so that they can get all their materials together, get things clean and then make the move to start leaving in a staggered way.
Right, like transition will just be taking a little bit longer.
So our virtual students are going to have to adjust as well because the bell schedule will change, but we'll be publicizing that real soon, and you guys will. We won't start that until we're in stage 4, but you'll have a preview of it.
Well, thank you so much for letting us talk to you today.
Absolutely. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's a real honor being here.
And before we go, for our Wildcat listeners out there, each episode we will be giving you a letter or a number to help get our combination. And at the end of the year, if you have the correct combination, you will win a special prize. So today's number is 4. Make sure to write that down so you can win your special prize.
Well, that concludes our episode today. Make sure that you come back next time.
A special thanks to Mr. Walton for meeting us. So that's
Thank you all.
To This Locker Today.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.